I'm Sensei Alex Kakuyo, North American contributor for Buddhist Global. Thanks for joining me for this episode of The Ordinary Buddhist. The title of today's Dharma talk is Lending a Helping Hand. Before we get into that, please subscribe and hit the notification bell. That way you'll be notified when I post talks in the future. If you wouldn't mind hitting the like button, that'd be great too. As we've grown and expanded our garden here on the homestead, one of the really nice benefits that I wasn't expecting is we're having more wildlife come into the property. Now that's not always a good thing. Sometimes the insects we attract are pests that want to eat our crops, and we have to do various things to protect from that. But we also have some helpful visitors as well. Praying mantises, for example, and also toads. Toads are nice in a garden because they eat some of those pests I mentioned earlier, namely slugs and pillbugs. So every time I see a toad in the garden, I say hello and ask them to stay. However, one of them got into trouble recently. I don't know how, but somehow a very large toad, almost as large as my fist, managed to get into our garage. Now, there's nothing good for toads to eat in our garage, and I was a little worried that my friend might get stepped on or trapped, but, I left him there for the night, figuring maybe he got in so he could figure his way out, but he was still there the next day. So it was clear that I needed to lend a helping hand. I needed to pick him up, save him from his predicament, and return him back to the garden. I was a little hesitant to do this because one of the defense mechanisms that toads have to protect themselves from predators is that they will urinate all over anyone who picks them up, which is not something I wanted, but you gotta do what you gotta do. Thankfully, he decided to keep all of his fluids within him as I carried him from point A to point B. I deposited Mr. Toad in one of our garden beds and he went on his happy way. So, it's a happy story with a happy ending. However, it made me think about the Buddha Dharma and how we relate to the teachings. Because we, as human beings, are sometimes like that toad. We get caught up in our desires and our feelings of anger or greed or fear, and frankly, we end up somewhere where we don't belong. In our stubbornness, we may think that we can just make the most of a bad situation or we can figure our way out of it, but that's not always the case. Sometimes we need a helping hand, and we can find that in the Buddhist scriptures. The teaching that Buddha laid out are not commandments. He's not trying to shake his fists at us and tell us what to do or ruin our fun. He simply realizes that we, like all sentient beings, sometimes get ourselves into trouble. We end up in places we don't belong. But if we take that hand that's been extended to us, if we hold to the Four Noble Truths, the Noble Eightfold Path, the Six Perfections, and the Four Brahmavihara, the Buddha and the Bodhisattvas will pick us up and very kindly and gently deposit us where we need to be. More than that, once we get back where we belong, we can then extend a helping hand to others, extending them the same wisdom and compassion that the Buddha and the Bodhisattvas have shown to us. When we do this, much like the toad, we find ourselves in a much better situation, and we're able to make life better not just for ourselves, but for all sentient beings. Amitabha.